Zinc is one of those nutrients that often gets overlooked in everyday health conversations, but I've come to realize just how essential it is, especially for someone like me who struggles with health anxiety and wants to do everything possible to support my body, stay ahead of illness, and maintain some sense of control. When I started looking into zinc, I wasn't expecting it to be such a powerhouse mineral. But the more I learned, the more convinced I became that it absolutely deserves a spot in my daily health routine. Let's start with the basics. Zinc is an essential trace element, which means our bodies need it in small amounts, but we can't produce or store it on our own. That means we have to get it from food or supplements every single day. And even though we only need a small amount, it's involved in literally hundreds of biological functions. Over 300 different enzymes in the body rely on zinc to do their job properly. From immune function to wound healing, from DNA synthesis to cell division, zinc is everywhere in the background, quietly making sure our bodies operate smoothly. For someone like me, that's a big deal. My mind often jumps to worst-case scenarios about my health, and while I know I can't prevent everything, I can do things to support my body and lower my risk. Zinc gives me one more tool in that toolbox. Let's talk about some of the specific benefits and the science behind them, so you can see why I take zinc seriously. One of the biggest reasons I prioritize zinc is for its impact on the immune system. Zinc is absolutely critical for both innate and adaptive immunity. That means it helps with your body's first-line defense, like skin and mucosal barriers, as well as with the more complex responses, like the production of T cells and antibodies. Studies have consistently shown that people with low zinc levels are more prone to infections and take longer to recover from illness. In fact, even a mild deficiency can impair immune function, increasing the likelihood of colds, flu, and other viral or bacterial infections. I don't know about you, but when I get sick, it sets off all my anxiety alarms. I spiral into worry about what the symptoms might mean, and I often can't relax until I feel 100% better. That's why I started taking zinc proactively, rather than waiting until something goes wrong. There's strong evidence that zinc supplementation, especially when taken within 24 hours of the onset of cold symptoms, can shorten the duration and severity of the illness. Some randomized controlled trials have shown that zinc lozenges can cut down the length of a cold by as much as 33%. But again, I don't want to wait until I'm sick. I want my immune system functioning optimally all the time. Another reason I've embraced zinc is its role in reducing inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation is linked to so many health issues: heart disease, cancer, autoimmune disorders, even anxiety and depression. And while inflammation is a natural part of the healing process, too much of it over time wears the body down. Zinc helps regulate inflammatory responses by balancing pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory cytokines. This balance is crucial, especially as we get older or if we're under frequent stress. Speaking of stress, did you know that psychological stress actually depletes zinc levels in the body? You're anxious, which lowers your zinc, which weakens your immune system and heightens inflammation, which then makes you feel even worse. That realization hit me hard. It was yet another reason to make zinc a daily part of my life. I want to break that cycle and give my body the support it needs to stay resilient under pressure. Zinc is also vital for wound healing and skin health. If you're someone who cuts easily, bruises often, or deals with acne, eczema, or slow-healing injuries, you may be dealing with a zinc deficiency. Zinc promotes the formation of collagen and new tissue, and it's essential in all the different stages of wound repair, from clotting to inflammation to tissue regeneration. I used to get canker sores frequently, and after starting zinc, I noticed a real difference in how fast they cleared up. But zinc isn't just about healing on the outside. It's also deeply involved in neurological health, which matters to me as someone who deals with an anxious brain. Zinc is a key player in neurotransmission and brain development. It affects memory, learning, mood regulation, and even sleep quality. There's emerging research suggesting that zinc may help modulate the GABA system, which is directly involved in calming the brain and reducing anxiety. Some studies have even found a correlation between low zinc levels and higher rates of depression and anxiety disorders. While zinc isn't a cure-all, knowing that it may support mental health is reassuring, and I'll take any edge I can get in the battle against health anxiety. Let's not forget about zinc's antioxidant properties. It helps neutralize free radicals, those unstable molecules that damage cells and contribute to aging and disease. Oxidative stress has been linked to cancer, heart disease, and neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's. Zinc helps stabilize cell membranes and protects against this damage. It's like an internal shield that keeps your cells from deteriorating faster than they should. And speaking of chronic disease prevention, zinc plays a role in maintaining cardiovascular health. It helps regulate blood pressure, supports healthy cholesterol levels, and reduces arterial inflammation. That's important for anyone, but especially if you're like me and often fixate on heart-related symptoms. Just knowing that zinc supports heart health gives me a little peace of mind when my brain tries to convince me that every twinge is something sinister. Zinc also supports hormonal balance and reproductive health. It's necessary for the production and regulation of hormones like insulin, testosterone, and thyroid hormones. That matters not just for fertility but for metabolism, mood, and energy levels. A sluggish thyroid, for example, can mimic a ton of scary symptoms: fatigue, weight gain, brain fog, hair thinning. Zinc helps keep your thyroid functioning properly, which in turn supports everything from temperature regulation to emotional stability. Now let's talk numbers, because dosage matters. The recommended dietary allowance (RDA) for zinc is 11 mg per day for adult men and 8 mg per day for adult women. However, many experts suggest that 15-30 mg per day may be more appropriate for people looking to support immunity or correct a deficiency. Personally, I aim for around 25 mg daily through a combination of diet and a high-quality supplement. But here's the thing, more is not always better. Taking too much zinc, especially long-term, can actually suppress the immune system, interfere with copper absorption, and cause other problems. Also, and this is really important if you're thinking about starting zinc supplementation, do not take zinc on an empty stomach. Trust me, I learned this the hard way. It can cause intense nausea, stomach cramps, and even vomiting if you take it without food. I always take my zinc with a meal, usually breakfast or lunch, to avoid any issues. And I make sure it's not too close to calcium or iron supplements, because those can interfere with zinc absorption. Food sources of zinc are great too, and I try to include them when I can. Oysters are the richest source, but other good options include beef, chicken, pumpkin seeds, lentils, cashews, and chickpeas. If you're plant-based, you'll need to be a bit more mindful, because plant sources of zinc are less bioavailable due to compounds called phytates. That's another reason supplementation makes sense for me. At the end of the day, I'm not claiming zinc as a magic pill. But for someone like me, someone who overanalyzes every symptom, who craves reassurance that I'm doing everything I can to stay healthy, it's one more line of defense. It's one more decision I can make to support my immune system, protect my brain, lower my anxiety, and feel just a little bit more in control of my health. So yes, I take zinc daily, not in huge doses, not as a cure-all, but as a simple science-backed tool in my overall approach to staying well. If you struggle with health anxiety like I do, maybe it's worth looking into for yourself. Just remember, take it with food, don't overdo it, and as always, talk to your doctor if you have any health conditions or concerns.